the Agile brand.
Welcome to Season 6 of the Agile brand, where we discuss marketing technology and customer experience trends, insights, and ideas with enterprise and technology platform leaders. We focus on the people, processes, data, and platforms that make brands successful, scalable, customer-focused, and sustainable. This is what makes an Agile brand. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom, advising Fortune 1000 brands on MarTech, marketing operations, and CX, best-selling author and speaker. The Agile Brand Podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that my latest book, Priority is Action: 7 Principles for Better Strategies, Decisions, and Outcomes, is now available. In it, I give ideas and insights for leaders and teams that need to make meaningful progress on their priorities. After all, our priorities are what we do, not what we say we'd like to do. You can find Priority is Action on Amazon or learn more on my website, gregkihlstrom.com. Now let's get on to the show. Today we're going to talk about keeping up with AI in marketing, what leaders and companies should be doing to stay ahead, and the future role of AI in marketing teams. To help me discuss these topics, I'd like to welcome Cathy McPhillips, Chief Growth Officer at Marketing AI Institute, which, among other things, produces the annual MAICON event, which this year will be taking place in Cleveland, Ohio on September 10 through 12. Cathy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Greg. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about this with you. So why don't we get started with you giving a little background on yourself and what you're currently doing with Marketing AI Institute?
Yeah, so I have been with the Institute 3 years now, just 3 years this past May. And I come by way of a few agencies, my own marketing consulting firm. I worked at a content marketing education company, and I've been with the Institute for a few years. So I head up growth for the company, which includes registrations for MAICON. It includes education, growing our education arm of the business, and growing our community.
Great. So let's dive in here. And it's been tough, even someone in the industry, so to speak. It's been tough to keep up with all the developments in the world of AI in the last few years. And, there's a lot of new companies popping up, a lot of existing companies making some fundamental shifts. So lots to talk about here, and certainly value your perspective on this. So what surprised you most about maybe this time this year versus last year?
I think a couple things. One, I feel like, a year ago we were trying to automate tasks, look for efficiency gains, trying to do some, where can these tools make some small but mighty changes? And I feel like we're to the point where we're just getting better at creating some really highly tailored experiences for our customers versus just trying to have us save a little bit of time, a little bit of money, a little bit of resources, where they're becoming more meaningful, which I don't know if that surprised me. I just think we're getting better and smarter. I think was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I also feel like, we've talked a lot about marketing, how you can, let's move fast and break things. And I'm really, really happy that I don't feel like, I think from a year ago to now, I think we're stopping that. Like AI is not something you want to move fast and break. So I think we are getting really laser focused on ethics, making sure we're doing the right thing, being a little slower, a little more methodical about what things we're doing.
Yeah. That's good to hear, right? It's because there's definitely it's not without its potential challenges and everything like that. So that's good to hear. What about startup activity in the AI space? Certainly, we've been hearing I lost track of how many AI related startups, whether those are truly AI or just startups that are tacking that onto their features to raise money or something. But what are you seeing in the startup activity? And, do you see some rapid consolidation in the months ahead just based on how many kind of popped up out of nowhere?
Yeah, it's such a crowded landscape. And you said it best. You look at Scott Brinker's marketing, landscape, and there's 13,000 companies on there. And it's to the point where I showed it at a presentation and someone's like, can you zoom in? I'm like, no, I can't zoom in. This is the best I got. So there's just so many, like you said, not all of those are AI, but is representative of how many tech companies are out there, whether they are AI companies tech companies who are now figuring out how to embed AI into what they're doing because they have to do so to survive. But I do think that startups are very, very valuable, in my opinion, for a couple reasons. One, I feel like they help the bigger tech companies solve specific problems. And I think they become really attractive acquisition targets because there could be the OpenAIs, the Googles, all these other the big companies that have the money that say, we are missing this critical piece to this. And rather than having our team go out and do it, we have a company that knows what they're doing. So I think that's really valuable. And it also helps those small companies that have the talent, have the knowledge, have the resource, not even the resources, but they know what needs to get done, but they don't have the heavy funding. So it kind of gives them a chance to grow.
Yeah.
But I think I do like the smaller companies. I feel like the smaller companies are the ones, and many of the people that I know that have started these small tech companies, AI companies, they're the ones that have been in the weeds, in the trenches, and most of their tech is born out of their need to build it because they couldn't find someone else doing it.
Yeah.
So us as marketers, those are the ones we really appreciate because we're like, they get exactly what we're dealing with. And I think they're very, very important for them. And if they build this and they're acquired, good for them. But it does then in turn for all of us marketers make the bigger companies even stronger.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's as someone who I use a few different tools, and it's certainly some of the like legacy platforms that I've used are rapidly adopting AI based features, but I guess it's kind of it's a good and a bad thing from a marketer standpoint, I would imagine, just because there's all these tools out there, some very specialized. But it also means now we're kind of expanding how many tools we're using. But do you see that? Do you see that kind of contracting over the years ahead as there are these, some consolidations, or, is specialization kind of the way it's going to be for a little while at least?
I think in the short term, I think, it's just hard. I think we can go in a bunch of different directions. One, we can look at the companies that are already in our tech stack and saying, okay, they have this AI component that we've been using this small tech for. If we're already paying for the big tech, are they that different? Should we be just using what we already have? Or is there some value, this big point of differentiation in this smaller tech? And if there is there an API? Is there a Zap? Is there something we can set up to make sure that it does integrate with everything that we're doing? So I think it almost is down to, what's the use case? What's the problem? What are you trying to solve? What is the best tech? And then when you get into the bigger, if you're working for an enterprise, sometimes you're just like, here's what you're getting,
right? Right.
Just to get through approvals, procurement, onboarding, all of that. A lot of times we're just using what we have the means to use.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit here, recently saw some stats that show that, well, leaders generally seem to understand the importance that AI can play in the growth and transformation of their organizations. They aren't necessarily up to speed on the specifics. So, the one study, I believe, from Pega and Savanta recently showed leaders had a hard time identifying exactly what generative AI was, for instance, even though certainly on board with adopting it and things. So in this race to adopt tools, what happens when adoption outpaces understanding of the exact tools being used?
Oh, so much. So the first thing that comes to mind is just kind of misaligned expectations.
Yeah.
Look at the Gartner hype cycle, and there's that height of inflated expectations, which then becomes the trough of disillusionment when they're like, oh, we didn't know we needed those people. We didn't know we needed our agency. We didn't know that we needed to do more than put in this simple prompt. So I think education is huge for that. I think there could be misuse. We think we're using it the right way. You get your data in the hands of someone who really genuinely thinks they're doing the right thing, and they put their customer data into one of these tools. So I think that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah.
And then I think there's also, ethics is something, a whole ball of wax. But then even just kind of like a suboptimal use of AI, they think they're using a tool the right way, they get a bad result, and then they just stop.
Yeah.
So I think, like you said, understanding is such a key component of this. And as people are adopting it. I think that actually has slowed adoption a little bit, because I think a lot of people are just like, I don't even know where to start. So maybe if we don't talk about it, it'll go away, which is not going to happen.
That's the head in the sand approach to business, which is not uncommon, unfortunately. But
Correct.
yeah, so we've got a lot of people listening to this show, but I focus a lot on conversations about the enterprise, and so I wonder what those organizations then. I mean, certainly some more education will be beneficial, but what should those enterprise companies be focused on right now in terms of AI and AI adoption?
Yeah, I mean, education and training is key. I spoke to a group of CMOs recently, and we talk quite regularly. And there are a lot of discussions on go-to-market strategies, strategic building in your organization, all these big, meaningful, critical things to your business. Then I talked about some really tactical AI use cases, and they were like, "Whoa, slow down." And I was like, you guys, if you don't understand this, you're talking about these amazing, incredible things you can be doing for your business, and you don't understand some of these basics. So, and I know they're busy. I know everyone's busy, and it's like, where does this fit in? But I think we just need to make time for it. So there are there are free resources out there. There are podcasts. We've got an intro to AI class. We've got so much free content on our website, which is a great starting point. And many others have that as well. But I think just getting started, dedicating a little bit of time each week to education and training, and then ramping that up. I think data management is a really good place to start. If you're not ready to make that AI leap just yet, maybe start figuring out how you can make some meaningful changes in your organization as far as cleaning up your data, getting things AI ready, so that when you are ready to take that step, that your company, your processes, your data is in a good place for that.
Digital marketers, this one's for you. I've got 30 seconds to tell you about Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises. So here are a few things you can do in 30 seconds or less when you manage projects on Wix Studio. Work in sync with your team on one canvas, reuse templates, widgets, and sections across sites, create a client kit for seamless handovers, and leverage best-in-class SEO defaults across all your Wix sites. Time's up, but the list keeps going. Step into Wix Studio to see more. So, leaders specifically then, should they be, where should they be? I know you've touched on this a little bit just now, but, what should leaders be focused on specifically to try to make the best decisions and where to go?
We talk a lot about building an AI council in your organization, and whether, especially at an enterprise level, if you have people in different departments, and I don't care if someone's coming in at 22 years old, fresh out of college, if there's an interest and a desire to see where this goes, and if they're interested, they're excited about it, they want to be part of it, get people from all the different departments together and saying, okay, can we do this? What does this mean for us? Where are some opportunities? What are some of the risks? What do we need to worry about? I think that's really important. And I think actually having someone who is a little bit of a naysayer when it comes to AI is probably a really good person to have on that team, just so things are done very methodically and thought through. Yeah. But getting together and just saying, what's out there, what's available, what use cases do we have, what problems can we solve, is there an AI to help us, and just get it going down that path, building generative AI policies, looking at a roadmap. If you start with one small tool in marketing and do some tests and pilot programs and can scale it, what's the next step? So, and we know that even if we build a roadmap of some sort, in 2 months, it's going to be like, oh, that did not go the way we planned it. Right. But it's easier to pivot and, adjust a plan than it is just to start from scratch and just kind of go in blindly and not kind of have a vision of where you think you want this to go.
Yeah. And I think some of this just speaks to not even specifically about AI, but, I think the pandemic taught us that we need to be able to be more agile when it comes to digital business and the digital experience. I think the hype, some of it justified, some of it maybe not, but, the hype around AI has also taught us, okay, there's these long-standing digital transformations going on, these, 5-year plans. And, to what you just said, where was AI in that, 3 years ago when it was being planned? And, now all of a sudden we have to kind of reconcile all of this. So, it's yet again another lesson to, we need to make good plans, but we have to be able to adjust those plans when new information becomes available. Do you see that as this just kind of on the same continuum of all of that?
I do. So I started my career over 30 years ago, and when I was doing media plans, it was like we're booking 16 weeks of broadcast television over the course of 12 months. And we had our schedules. Once we made that buy, it was locked in. Once that commercial, once that spot was produced, it was locked in. And it could have been awful, and we were stuck. And we're in a position now where we could build our plans and we can change it on a dime. So I think it's such an opportunity for us to be strategic, make these plans, but be ready to move. And it's actually, I think it's awesome that we have that opportunity to pivot and to do what's best for our business, optimize our marketing, and using AI to help us do a lot of that. So in the long run, I feel like it's actually going to help us a ton, save us some money, have us be doing the right things with our marketing, reaching the right people at the right time with the right message, all of that. And I think AI can help us even more than it had in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And so you mentioned the hype cycle, and certainly despite what we've just said here, there's a lot of real potential here, but there's a lot to kind of sort out, and we need legitimate sources of information and places to ask some tough questions. One of those that I loved going to the MAICON event last year. I'm glad I'll be speaking there again this year as well. So looking forward to it. Can you, for those not familiar with it, can you talk a little bit about what's the purpose of MAICON? What is it? Where is it? All those kinds of things.
Yeah, so MAICON stands for Marketing AI Conference, and this is our 5th year, if you can believe that. And so it's really focused on, our company's mission is to AI literacy for all. We want to make AI approachable, accessible, actionable to marketers and business leaders around the world. And it starts with just having a basic understanding of what artificial intelligence is, and then it grows into, what are your use cases? What are your problems? How can you use AI to help you? So the event is a way for us to not only get Paul, Mike, and our team on the stage talking about the things that we are seeing, the things that we are doing, talking about some of the big things. Mike does this amazing presentation on like 45 tools in 45 minutes, where he just does this rapid fire. If you're looking at doing this, here's a tool. And it's not comprehensive because, like you said, there's thousands and thousands of tools, but it really gives folks like, oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
So it goes from the main stage, big picture. What is the future of AI? What is the now of AI? What are the things we need to be focusing on? How can we get our businesses in a position for success with artificial intelligence? And then the breakout sessions this year, it's great because in the past 12 months, there are just so many more stories to share. People can say, here's what I was trying to do. Here's the tool I found. Here's how I found it. Here was how I changed our program. Here are my results. So I love that there's a lot of actionable, tactical use cases, case studies for people to share this year, because I feel like that's going to be a lot of those light bulb moments for a lot of our attendees to leave there and say, oh my gosh, I actually can do this. Yeah. And showing folks how they can do it. And then, we've got this amazing Slack community of 7,000 people, and we're expecting 1,500 at our event this year. And it's just like so nice to talk to other people at the same challenges, opportunities, thoughts we're having. People are, sitting at table. It's like a nerd fest. It's absolutely amazing. People are just so excited to talk to people that understand what they're thinking and kind of commiserate on some of the challenges they're having. And then there's tech there. So we're expecting at least 15 different tech companies there who, a lot of folks don't always love the expo halls, but in this expo hall, like people just really genuinely want to help. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this vibe last year, but it was like no egos, no one saying, I'm an expert at this. It's like, hey, I tried this new thing. Come look at it. And I think that was just it's just a really nice energy and vibe.
Yeah, I could completely agree. It's great to be surrounded by people that are focused on this. And I guess with that though, it's like, how do you balance? I mean, Marketing AI Institute focused on learning and education, so there's a strong component of that. How do you make sure that it's not just kind of part of the hype and instead focused on real actual learning and use cases and stuff like that? Like how do you balance that?
Well, I know you know Paul. So Paul Reitzer
Yeah.
is our CEO, and everything that we do as a company, every single person on our team is either a journalism major, a marketing major, or a former journalist. We are not data scientists. We are not machine learning engineers. We come to this through the lens of how can AI help us impact our business, grow our business, lead healthier, happier lives. So there are always sessions on ethics and responsible AI. There are always sessions on what do we think comes next. There are always sessions on how can we put this to work right now. And it is the way that Tracy and Paul curate the speakers. It's like with a fine tooth comb, they're making sure they are the right people to talk about these things, that we know that these sessions are going to be practical, applicable, like I said,
Yeah.
but are you doing things the right way? And are you going to be the person on the right side of history? Because AI, there's going to be people that ruin things.
Yeah.
And just having this network and this community of folks that we know are doing things for the right reasons for their businesses and for themselves and for their client customers and for their team members, I think is really important.
Yeah, yeah. And so you mentioned the conference has been going on 5 years. I think I was actually at the very first one as well. And certainly, talking about marketing and AI was a lot different 5 years ago than it is today. How have you seen the conference change over the last few years?
Well, yeah, I came in 2019 as an attendee
Yeah.
and I left and I was like, oh, wow, that's great. And then I went back to work.
Right.
Just because things aren't where they are now, weren't as where they are now. But I left there thinking of these opportunities, and I was very guilty of saying, "Okay, I don't have time for this. I need to get back. I need to get back to work." But I've just seen this evolution of, you know, I think, and I think by design, making sure that the people that are coming in to talk are talking about things that people can take action on, and
Yeah.
that it's not just theory and inspiration. There certainly is inspiration, but that it is really something that people can understand. All the sessions are geared toward a business person, a marketing person, not for it towards a data scientist. We want to make sure that they're understandable. So,
Yeah.
because I say a lot that, like, I'm our demo. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm in marketing. How can I help? How can I use these AI tools to help me in my job better? And I have. It's interesting to see how much in my day. I mean, aside from the fact that marketing has changed over the past 3 decades, but how many of the things that I've changed in my day to day over the past few years because of AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Do you think that, I mean, on a long enough time scale that marketing and AI become so synonymous that is MAICON just going to be a marketing conference versus marketing and AI? Are we how far away are we from that, if ever?
We have talked about that. Like, is MAICON a marketing conference, an AI conference, a business conference? All of them. We
Yeah.
have talked about that. So for now, it's just MAICON. And we certainly have, if you're a business person and not in the marketing world, there are very many applications for you at MAICON.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is a discussion that has come up numerous times in the company.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. There's a lot moving and changing, but no, it's great. As I said, I'm looking forward to attending and speaking this year, and always find the sessions valuable. Well, Cathy, thanks so much for joining. One last question before we wrap up, kind of going back to the conversation about leaders in the enterprise. What's a next best action that you'd recommend for a leader out there that maybe feels a little behind the curve on AI adoption and things? Where could they start?
This is one of our free offerings. We've got an intro to AI class that we run every month. Paul goes through about a 30 to 35-minute presentation on an intro to AI. I'm on there as well, curating questions from the audience for the balance of the hour. And it's just a really, really interesting and fun class. And it's just a great way to kind of dip your toes in the water. There is, you can take that next step after it, which is our piloting AI class, but you don't need to. Jump on our website. You can just find so much information on there without spending a penny. And I think it's a great way to start. And there are a ton, folks like you, and there are, find someone in your network, in your community, and just start educating yourself on ways that can impact you and your business.
Great, great. Well, again, I'd like to thank Cathy McPhillips, Chief Growth Officer at Marketing AI Institute, for joining the show. You can learn more about Cathy, Marketing AI Institute, and MAICON, taking place September 10 through 12 in Cleveland, Ohio, by following the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to The Agile Brand, brought to you by Tech Systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.gregkillstrom.com. That's GregKihlstrom.com. While you're there, check out my series of best-selling Agile brand guides covering a wide variety of marketing technology topics, or you can search for Greg Kihlstrom on Amazon. The Agile brand is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Until next time, stay agile.
The Agile Brand.